This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And here we are on August the 29th, summer winding down. Of course, the summer ends in September, but does September ever feel like summer? Yeah. But nonetheless, folks, I turned 50 in July. Well, something else turned 50 in July, too. A little movie called What's Up, Doc? And I believe a little horror film. Just do a little check here. Yeah, a little horror movie called I Dismember Mama also
Ah,
turned 50 as well. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on the year I came to be. Folks, I give you somebody who just arrived to the party in What's Up, Doc, and decided to join the festivities. Why not? I would have too, had I been conscious enough for it. I give you the lovely Elaine Partnow. How do you do, Eileen?
hi. I'm very well, and it's Elaine, not Eileen.
Oh, you know what? I interview somebody else that goes by Eileen, and I have that same thing,
Very
between
similar.
yeah, they corrected me, and then I just got in that habit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So my apologies.
No problem. It's a very common and simple error. They all are the same base.
Hmm.
Helen, Eileen, Elaine, and all the same base from the Greek Helen. So
Ah,
I'm sorry if there's some noise interference right now, but I think the janitor is vacuuming outside my office, so there's nothing I can do about it. But
actually, you're fine.
oh, good. You can't hear it. I can, but
There you go. There you go. Or maybe it's some of the shenanigans that went on in this movie.
oh, there were a lot of shenanigans in that movie. That's for sure. I was in the most fun scene in that film, the one where the suitcase keeps getting switched around, and it was total chaos. It really was. It was a lot of fun.
You know what? I love this kind of humor, and this movie still brings joy. It's such a funny movie, and it's so clever, you
Very clever. It reminds me so much of those old 40s movies, the screwball comedies, Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell, and very clever, very witty, very quick, and very screwy.
you know what? I think Cary Grant is one of the funniest guys, especially at that time.
his timing was his timing was exquisite, really. Yeah.
Yeah, like even Alfred Hitchcock using him and stuff like To Catch a Thief and North by Northwest in particular. He
Yeah.
was funny in those.
Yeah.
And those weren't comedies, but I'll tell you
No.
one thing, he was pretty funny in both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I
absolutely.
agree. Yeah.
Mm. But yeah, what's up, Doc? And of course that's this whole slang taken from Bugs Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a
Yeah. What's
lot,
up, Doc? What's up, Doc? Yeah.
yeah, and there was a lot of Looney Tunes stuff go on in there. You know, especially with Barbara Streisand and some of the posturing she does. Like I remember even her going down that escalator, and she does that little Bugs Bunny kind of tilt, and as she goes down and stuff like that just added to the whole uh array of humor that this film offered, and it just all around worked.
Mhm. I have a kind of fun story about Barbara Streisand, not from the film so much, although she's a total pro on the set, just
Hmm.
total pro. But when I was still in college, way back in the early 60s, um, a friend of mine called me one day and she said, "How would you like to fly to Las Vegas and see Barbara Streisand?" Now, at this time, she was not that famous. She was second on the bill to Liberace.
Okay.
Second on the bill. So, you know, but I knew of her, of course, because, she was so kind of hippie-ish and offbeat and all that in those days. And so I said, sure. Well, so we flew there, and I'm not going to give you the whole story because the whole story doesn't focus on Streisand, but we flew there in a little single engine plane that her friends, and I only found out when we were up in the air, this was their first solo flight, rented plane. We landed in Vegas. They locked the plane, and the key broke in the lock. That's a whole long story about how we got out of that. But anyway, we got there in time for the show. And Liberace, I'd never really seen him or watched him before. And he was fabulous. He was a great showman, no question. But then we got to see Barbara Streisand in her really early days. And she was just as extraordinary and special as she is now. It was so exciting to see her.
And you know what? She's still great. I remember
Absolutely.
we used to have a 4-screen theater here called the Kmart Plaza, and that was torn down in 2000 or not 2000. It was the end of 1996 because they built a 10-screener up at the mall, which is where our movies are now. But I remember one of the last movies I saw there, and I saw it with my mom. I took her to see The Mirror Has Two Faces. And it was one of the last movies I saw up there, and it was Barbara Streisand and Jeff Bridges.
I don't think I've ever seen that film.
Yeah.
The Mirror Has Two Faces. I'm going to write that down. I want to look that up.
Yeah. So, so Barbara's always been great to watch, and everything that she's been in.
Streisand and Nickel and
No, it's Jeff Bridges, yeah.
Who I also think is terrific. Yeah,
Oh,
terrific. I wrote it down.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But nonetheless, Peter, I'm gonna screw his name. Peter Bogdanovich.
Bogdanovich.
We just recently lost him too, and yeah, what a terrific filmmaker, and a lot of great films, but I'm gonna hold this one the highest, I think. Absolutely. Talk about working with him as a filmmaker.
Well, the first film I worked with Peter on was one of his very first films, Targets, with Boris Karloff, and it was about a sniper. And it's really what kind of put Peter on the map so that he could move up to high. This was a low budget film, and he worked with Polly Platt, who was his wife at the time, and a wonderful filmmaker herself. They eventually divorced, and he married that little blonde from the Last Picture Show. I can't think of her name at the moment.
Sybil Shepherd?
Yeah, Sybil Shepherd. But Polly was a force to be reckoned with. And it was very exciting. I was one of the people in my car. I was in my car with my husband and my little boy, and and the sniper was shooting. And it was a drive-in movie theater. So Peter asked me to get totally hysterical because my husband gets shot. And he said, "I just want you to go berserk, just crazy, So the pellet hits the windshield, the wax pellets that they use to cue us in, and I went like nuts, just like he asked me to. And when I was done, the whole crew burst out into applause because had done such a good job, and I was so excited, and I learned a very big lesson. So when the screening came, all the cast and crew, of course, were invited to the screening, and I couldn't wait to see me, in this scene. And I really, other than about maybe 5 seconds, I ended up on the cutting room floor.
Oh.
So this was a great lesson for a young actress to learn that, don't ever get your hopes up too much about anything, honey. Just do your work and move on. And that's what I learned to do. And that's what I do to this day. I'm still working actress. I just did a feature film the other day. Am I allowed to say what it's called? I think so.
Sure.
What was it called? Roadhouse. God, I have to look it up. I swear. Anyway, I can't think of what it's called. Room and Board. That was it. Room and Board.
Okay.
Kind of a comedy mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, shot I shoot commercials a fair amount.
Mm-hmm.
So, still at it. I'm 80 now. I'm going to be 81 in October. Crazy.
I thought you were 39.
Oh, yeah. Remember, I was in What's Up Doc 50 years ago, and I was no kid then.
I was.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
Yeah. Yeah, you worked with Peter, if I remember my research, 3 films. Am I correct?
Right.
That's right.
Right. The other one was was it Nickelodeon? Did Peter direct Nickelodeon?
Nickelodeon. You know what? I'm gonna look that up here because I got yours.
I'm trying to remember. It's a long time ago.
It's strange because Nickelodeon's one. Yeah, I have not seen this film. I should
Burt
see
Reynolds and I think Ryan O'Neal was in it, and Burt Reynolds, and I think Tatum was in it. It was fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun comedy,
We'll come back to that though momentarily. Yeah. I do want to, and I should ask this question earlier, and I usually ask this a lot to get to know my guests, and is to get a little bit of your background and what brought you into the business.
Well, from the time I was a little girl, I always wanted to be an actor. I'm one of these people who always knew what you wanted to do. And we're 3 girls in my family. So I remember telling my dad, I will carry on the family name, Dad. Of course, I never made it as a big star. But where my name is more known, actually, I'm also a writer. And I've authored many, many books, and my name is really more well known in that field probably than in the showbiz field. But from the time I was a kid in school, I was in all the plays. From the time I was 9 or 10, I always had the lead in all the plays, all through junior high and high school. And then in college, I majored theater arts at UCLA. And in fact, they had an honor society at that time. I don't know if they still do, called Cap and Bells. And I was the youngest member to be admitted to it and to win the Best Actress Award at UCLA. So that, and then I moved to New York, and I got to study with the late, great Uta Hagen, one of the greatest stage actresses in America and one of the best teachers ever of theater, of acting for theater, any kind of acting, whether it's stage or it's very different. Stage and film are very different, but the basic tools you use to be good are the same. And anyway, so it's always been, my passion. And I got away from the business, if you will, for actually 30 years. My husband and I moved to Louisiana, and but I still loved it. So I started doing some programs based on works that I'd written, of doing living history portraits of great women. My books have largely dealt with women in history. And I started doing it in schools and community centers. And to date, I've done, probably close to 600 venues all over the country, doing kind of impersonations, if you will, of great women like Eleanor Roosevelt, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Sojourner Truth, on and on and on. And that was a great passion. So I never stopped acting, but I did leave the business. And when we came back, we came back to California in 2010.
Okay.
Really just not that terribly long ago. And so I thought, well, I'm here. I may as well dive back in. And I've been working pretty steadily ever since.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you know what? You mentioned Target and you mentioned Boris Karloff. I gotta say, I had his daughter Sarah on here in tribute to him
Oh,
some time ago, and
nice.
yeah, the original Frankenstein.
Yeah.
What were your memories of him?
He was not on set when he wasn't there.
Okay.
So I didn't get to meet him. I only got to see him in the film. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I never met Eric Roberts, but he is watching me on a television in a James Balsamo movie, so so it is still kind of nice that you're still
Is that
sharing the same film.
Is that Julia's brother, Eric? Is that who you're talking about? Julia
Yeah,
Roberts' brother?
yeah.
Actually, I was in a film with him, and I did get to meet him and work with him. It's called It's Not a Date. It's directed by Barry Pollock.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I can't quite remember. But that was a lot of fun. I played, as I often do, a kooky grandma. And yeah, he was nice to work with. He seemed like a very nice fellow.
Yeah. I'm not an actor, but James Balsamo, the director, was on my show and asked me if I could shoot some footage to put on a television for this sequence with Eric Roberts, and I'm like, okay, why
Okay,
not?
why
Why
not?
not? You know? But nonetheless, What's Up, Doc? What a terrific comedy. I remember we got something we do here every year. We haven't done it since the pandemic started, but it's called the Under the Stars Classic Film Series, where people, bring blankets down, they are lawn chairs, and watch a movie outdoors, and there's refreshments. And I remember What's Up, Doc played there one year, and I remember actually this person was a guest on the show, Kat LeBlanc, who's um, a local musician, local singer
Mm-hmm.
here, and she was one of the heads of the MB Film Co-op, and I remember her laughing so hysterical at stuff going on in this movie. It's one of the things I remember now watching this is her laughing at it. And I wasn't even sitting near her, but it's always great to hear genuine laughter as somebody who can't control it.
Yeah, we just can't stop. I get it totally.
Absolutely.
While we're talking, I'm looking. I have a young nephew. He's 17, and he's a film buff like you.
Uh-huh.
And so his mom, my niece, said, "Well, let's watch Let's Up Doc. What's Up Doc? Because it's a great movie. You'll love it." He'd never seen it, and your Aunt Elaine has a little part in it. So they're watching it. Look what I'm looking for, and he said, "Oh, there's Elaine," and he took a picture. So I have it, and he took us. Here it is, a screenshot. Let me see if I can get it up for you of me in What's Up Doc. I go, it's not going to read. It's all too. I have too much light. Hang on just a second, and
Yeah.
I'm going to turn these lights out, and that might make it. Nah, can't really see it. You can only see my hair and my face. But in the back, right behind me is Ryan O'Neal. That's,
Mm-hmm.
that's Ryan right there. And I guess that's the only recognizable. But I just thought, my God, he recognized me so fast. He didn't know me then. He's only 17 years old, It was so cute. So I was so happy that he did that. I'm sorry I couldn't get it to see it better, but it just won't. Yeah, it just won't read well all anyway. I thought it'd be fun if it would, but here
Yeah.
I am, proof of the pudding.
Well, talk about getting cast and what's up. Obviously, you worked with Peter and
Yeah,
Target.
yeah.
Talk about, and you say it's a small part, but I mean, for me, this movie really didn't have small parts. I think if any part didn't work, this movie would be thrown off. I think that every part of this movie worked. But talk about your role in the movie and how it fits into all the shenanigans.
Well, first of all, my most fun thing about it was when Peter called me in for an interview,
Hmm.
and and he said, "Look, you have the part," but he said, "You're my good luck charm." And I said, "Wow, really?" He said, "Well, I mean, look, I did so good with targets." So I said, "Well, okay." I said, "Well, next time you bring me in, could you give me a name and not just call me party guest?" Because that was the name of my role, was party guest, party guest one, or whatever it was. So my role really was just to have a good time, be festive and gay at the party, and just we don't use that anyway, and laugh and kind of really not notice everything that was going on, you know, so that it could go on as though it were, really sneaky, and that we couldn't see what was happening. Of course, we could, but you had to pretend like you didn't. And so that was it. It was very fun. And oh my gosh, they dressed me in a white Chanel suit. I was feeling so and the makeup and all that stuff. So it was just great. And it took a couple of days to film that scene because it was just wild, wild, crazy scene. Very difficult to pull off, but Peter pulled it off so well. And Austin Pendleton was in that film, was he
You know
not?
what? I've tried to reach out and get him on here, but I haven't had any luck,
Yeah.
but yeah, because I would have loved to have celebrated this film with him as well.
Yeah, he had a nice role in the film. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Austin and I were in Uta Hagen's class together in New York. So I knew him from then, and he's wonderfully talented. He really is.
So, is this the only time you've gone to a party and you see a table where everybody's underneath it with their back sticking?
I think it's the only time that ever happened.
Oh man, I think that's funny. Everybody's underneath the table, and you get that one shot, and waiters don't know what to think of it.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, and Barbara's always with, "Whoops, I dropped something on the floor.
Right.
You should help me come pick it up."
I haven't watched it in such a long time. Now you're making me want to watch it again.
Oh, gee, yeah, it's always worth watching. Yeah, that party scene was a long one, and of course, it went in contrast or parallel, I should say, to the whole suitcase. I'm watching this and I'm like thinking, what would I have done? Is there something I would have done to conceal this better? Because some of these people at the suitcases, it was like everybody there was three. Am I got that right? Was it four? Three or four of those. It's the same bag.
Right,
And of
right.
course, one has women's undergarments in it, and one's got jewelry. One's got these government paperwork that, we never find out what that's all about because it really didn't matter, you know. And there might have been another one, but nonetheless, I think it's so funny to see these grown adults crawling on the floor. Uh, while somebody's asleep on the bed, just get to get hold of the uh the bag.
Yeah.
There's just something very funny about that. And I gotta point out, and I did not realize this. I'm gonna click on What's Up Doc here because I need to get this guy's name right. Because Cyril Book, excuse me, who played Harry. I did not realize that was the same guy who played Boss Hogg in the Dukes of Hazzard. And he plays one of the thugs in this movie. And for me, one of the funniest scenes in the movie is where he wants to get hold of this bag of jewelry this woman has in the hotel. And he gets told on the phone to charm her. He says, "Put on your charm." And he goes, "Do I have to?" Anyway, he's walking. He's like, "Put on the charm. Put on the charm." She's kind of casually walking by, puts his foot out, trips her. He turns around, and she knows he tripped her, but he turns around, tries to help her up. This is going on all the way up the elevator. I thought that was funny. It was so immature, and that's what made it perfectly good because it's grown adults. But yes, the party scene, you were part of the party scene, so you got to witness, of course, another extraordinarily funny person, Madeline Kahn,
Oh my gosh.
being
She's
dragged out of
fun.
there, and her high heels are making those things on the
Yeah.
floor. You know what's funny? Madeline Kahn was in Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein after this, and
She was
ve-
wonderful.
very beautiful woman, and yet in this movie she's made up to look all frumpy, and
Hmm.
I love the fact that she's able to do that. And she is, especially with the voice, Eunice, she played Eunice. And she is so extraordinarily funny, especially because, of course, she was supposed to be at this party, and things did not work out that way. Talk about being there and seeing her do the scene where she gets dragged out of the party, because that must have been something.
Of course, the whole thing was just great to work on. It was just fun. But, when you're working on a set and each of these moves is so choreographed and they're done in short little bits, you don't get the effect that an audience gets. It's a very different thing. You're acting, and it's
Hmm.
different. And in a film, you do things it's not like stage work. You're doing very short little segments at a time. So something like this scene where she's dragged out, a lot of the other people aren't even there because the cameras have to be there. And it's very different than what you see, the finished product, and that's what the magic of movie making. It's so extraordinary that way. I love making film. I love it. I love seeing it all put together. When we've just worked on little bitty pieces at a time, and you see it all put together. If you've got a really good editor, of course, that's so
Hmm.
important. And then set to the right music, and good sound. All those things are so important. Sound can ruin a movie. Oh my God. You don't have good sound engineers, it could just totally ruin a movie. You ever watched a movie where all of a sudden it's like, turn up the volume, I can hardly hear it, and then all of a sudden it's blaring, and you have to turn it, really bad sound, or people are whispering and you can't tell what they're saying. Bad sound engineering. So sound engineering, every aspect of filmmaking is so terribly important. So important. Yeah.
I remember when Madeline passed away, and I was like, man, we lost a funny one,
Yeah.
because she was extraordinarily funny. What were your memories of her?
Well, I don't have personal memories of her, Greg. I I only met her on set.
Mm-hmm.
You don't you don't have time to develop personal relationships unless you're working a long time. And I only worked 2 days, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So, but my memories of her are as an extraordinarily gifted comedian. And I loved seeing her in Young Frankenstein. I've seen that film several times, Blazing
Mm-hmm.
Saddles. And I know what a heartbreak it was for Gene Hackman, not Gene Hackman, Gene Wilder, when she died, because they were beloveds. And so my memories of her are more like yours, of what a great performer she was.
Yeah, and of course, Barbara Streisand playing opposite to her, where of course she was replacing her at this party. I love Barbara Streisand, in this movie. Her and Ryan O'Neal, the whole meet cute. I don't know. Like when I watch this movie, it's like, why did she key into this guy, And yet she couldn't have keyed into somebody any more naive than what Ryan O'Neal played in this movie. And he was perfect. I'm reminded a lot when I watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Barry Bostwick bears a striking resemblance in his getup to Ryan O'Neal in this movie. The
Mm-hmm.
glasses, the perfectly square, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
suit, prime and proper,
Mm-hmm.
but not everything is prime and proper around him, And the shenanigans between those two were terrific. And I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here, because I know you mentioned you were only on set for 2 days, but I do, of course, have to ask if you had any, and I'm not just talking on camera, but any interactions with those two on set.
No, not
No,
particularly.
no,
And
okay.
Ryan was also in the Nickelodeon, and no, it's just not what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's
No,
not
that's
what
okay.
happens.
That's okay.
As
Mhm.
I said, when you work, like I did a film, we worked 12 days, uh, a small cast and crew. Well, you get to know everybody, and you have
Mhm.
a lot of interaction. But when you're on a great big movie like that, and there's just the crew alone is like 50 people,
Yeah.
between the gaffers and the camera people and the lighting people and the sound people and the guard, the green men, what they call the green men. I mean, and you know the art designers. I mean, it's humongous. And then at the party scene, of course, there were other people playing guests besides me. So all what you do is you're told what to do, you hit
Mhm.
your mark, and you get into that having such a great time like that. You
Mhm.
don't. There's no time to develop relationship in a situation like that. You're working. You are working. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, you had a great cast in this movie, and when I look at that party scene, Randy Quaid is there, who of course
Mm-hmm.
went on to have quite a career. I don't know what he's doing now.
I
Was
haven't seen him in a long time. I don't know either. Have to
No,
Google
when
him
I
and
say
find out.
when I say I don't know what he's doing now, it's that he's been I don't know about being arrested. I haven't followed it that closely, but he and his wife have been making these conspiracy videos, and he's
Oh,
very unshaven, and it's sad because Randy was always a good scene stealer, and this was a nice early role for him. Of course, he was
oh
also in
yeah.
the last picture show as well. Um, Kenneth Mars being in this. Kenneth
Oh
Mars,
yeah. He was hysterical.
funny.
Yeah. I kind of knew Ken actually through another friend of mine, and I was at a few social gatherings with him, and he was just as funny there as he was on set. He would we used to play parlor games, and he would just make me laugh and make everybody laugh so much. He was a jokester, a kibitzer, and he loved to, do his accents and playing like he is some kind of and he loved doing stuff like that on and off that. He was a real kibitzer. So him, I did get to know a little bit, but not then, not from What's Up Doc, but from social. Yeah.
Yeah, he was also in Young Frankenstein and the producers for Mel Brooks. What an underrated comedic talent Kenneth Mars is, because even in this, he playing the snooty guy, who's trying to get this recognition for that Austin is supposed to be given out, and he's all the time. And of course, I love how Streisand is always countering everything he does, very underrated talent. The movie looks great,
Holds up well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what my niece told me when she and my grandnephew watched it. She said it's just as good and funny today as it was when it came out.
Oh, I agree. The dialogue timing is perfect, especially the way Streisand and Ryan O'Neal uh, have their verbal back and forth. That she says something, he's supposed to say something else, but he ends up falling into, like where he says, "Would you leave me alone? I don't even know you." And she says her name, and he says, he shakes her head on him. Man, like that kind of charm comes off of Streisand in this. And not just the dinner scene, but the whole hotel sequence was so great, well set up. You got the big, of course, we all know it from Bullet, but of course you get to see it something kind of similar in What's Up, Doc as well, with a chase scene where things depend on things being missed, including a big glass shield that goes back and forth. It was perfectly Looney Tunes. You see it in the Looney Tune cartoons, but to see it being done by actors, that takes a lot of skill. I say bravo to uh, Peter Bogdanovich for being able to pull that off, and also bravo to the actors of being able to play it straight and
Absolutely.
make it work.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite scene in the movie?
It's been too long for
Oh, it has been too
seen it
fun.
for me. I haven't seen it in so many years, Greg, that it would be impossible for me to say what my favorite scene would. My favorite scene is the one I was in. Okay.
Okay. And I must say too, on another note, and I'm not going to give anything away, but Leanne Dunn, who of course was in Mel Brooks movies as well, playing the judge there at the end of the film. And I won't give away the catch, but boy, it was such a perfect punchline to this whole movie, His agitation over the whole thing was just perfect, absolutely perfect, Um, I know you're proud to be part of this, and I would be too, what a wonderful film. Um, Came out before I was born. I was born in July that year, so this one kind of I was in the womb when all the shenanigans were going on. But it's nice to go back and look at stuff like this, because in this film you don't have cell phones and you don't have this and don't have that, and all the technology. So it's nice to look at what everything was looked like back then. I love it. And of
Yep,
course,
it was a different time, that's for sure.
yeah. What was there anything else that your daughter and grandson had said when they watched this? Like, was there anything that they pointed out in this movie that just kind of
Well, it would be fun to really talk to them about it, but I really haven't discussed it with them. They just sent the picture and said, there you are, Auntie Elaine. Here's
Yeah,
what this movie is so great. And that was, we didn't talk. It was kind of like text back and forth.
yeah. Well, that's a proud film to share with them.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
Yeah, the next time I see them, in fact, I'm going to see them. It's my niece's birthday a week from today. And
mm-hmm.
we're going to have a little barbecue at my sister's, at her mom's. So I'll nab my grandnephew, particularly at the time, and say, "So, what did you think of the movie?" and get some more feedback. But I haven't seen him since. Yeah, kids are he's a teenager, so busy, doesn't have time for his auntie. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? Like I said, so much funny stuff. Even the following day after, like the hotels all but burnt down, and the guy comes in there, of course, with the doorknob. The hotel manager opens up the doorknob, just comes off, and Ryan O'Neal, he wakes up, he goes, "You were supposed to be out," and he goes, "Yeah, oh, when? Yesterday." The timing and the straight face, perfect. It's one of the best forms of comedy. Airplane got that right too, You had a lot of serious actors in Airplane, and they pulled that off as
Right,
well.
right,
But
right.
you know
I
what?
love it. It's droll, very droll humor,
Oh,
which I
love
just
it.
love. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know what? Also celebrating 50 years, I Dismember Mama, where you play a nurse. And
It was originally called Poor Albert and Little Annie, but I guess when the distributors bought it, they thought I Dismember Mama was more saleable, more marketable.
yep. Yeah, this movie, in a way, kind of reminded me of a film that came out a few years later called Maniac.
Mm,
Another person trying to deal with feelings of his mom, and also dealing with his feelings with and insecurities around women.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Maniac was quite graphic. I
mm-hmm.
liked the film, but it was quite graphic. Um, I just remember Mama also come up in that era where things were starting to get a little more challenging in movies. Not that it bothered me, but the Catholic legions of decency kind of got pushed aside, and people had a little more freedom. And I'll be frank, again, it doesn't bother me as long as everything is within reason.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I Dismember Mama come out the same year. Total different film. What's up, Doc? And of course, you play a nurse in this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
talk
very
about
serious
being.
role.
Yeah, Paul Later, the director. Talk about working on this film.
Well, of course, now Paul and I had a terrific relationship because I had worked on a stage show that he directed
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years before, and I worked in many of the films that Paul directed. Um, the one you're talking about, I Dismember Mama, Marigold Man, another one, the name of which I can't recall, but a lot of them. And Acrimonious Eye, the stage show, they then made a film out of. So, but it was it was really a horrendous experience working on I Dismember Mama because the guy is, he kind of goes berserk and he tries to strangle me. And the actor, Zoe Hall, it's like when you're acting, especially stuff like this where it's violent, it has to be choreographed very carefully because you don't want anybody to get hurt. And I go in there and he's watching a movie, I think a lewd film, if I recall. And, no, you're not supposed to be doing this. And I turn the film off and there's this little back and forth. And then he throws me down on the bed and tries to choke me. Well, he was literally choking me. And unfortunately, we did not create a safe word I guess we didn't think we had to. But I kept saying, stop. I mean, I was very genuine. Uh, I, I, I could act just as genuinely, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, he choked me so hard that I lost my voice for 3 days afterwards.
Oh.
And I was really furious at him because that is not what an actor is supposed to do. You are not supposed to hurt your fellow actor. You know, you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to act like you're hurting them, but that's what good actors do. And I was just furious with him. And Paul was angry too, but he had no way of really knowing because, he thought he knows I'm a good actress, and I figured I was just acting. But it was really bad. So I totally lost my respect for that actor, and hopefully he didn't go very far. I don't know.
You know what? It reminds me of a story of something that happened on set for the original Friday the 13th, because they had Betsy Palmer in this film, and she gets into struggle with the leading heroine of the film, Adrienne King. And Betsy, of course, coming from the theater, she was taught to make contact. So there was scenes where she was slapping Adrian. And finally, when cut was called, Betsy was told, well, we don't do this and don't do that. Of course, Betsy, was able to pull off the scene without doing that, but it was a little different story with her. I'm really sorry you experienced that,
Yeah.
it's funny because looking through this, I'm like, I interviewed somebody else from this film and it wasn't coming to me, and I just looked it up there and I was like, oh, Greg Believy, I had
Oh
him on
yeah.
here.
Yeah, Greg was great. Greg and I were friends. We actually dated for a while, long before his marriage, and then we co-starred in The Marigold Man, which Paul
Hmm.
Leader also directed. And yeah, I love Greg. He's back in New York now. Is that right?
I don't know. I interviewed him in 2017. I got him on Facebook. I should catch up to him, and have him back on. I had him on to talk about Bob Carroll, Ted and Alice, but I
Uh,
talked about also some of his other credits, and I Dismember Mama was one of them. It wasn't hitting me when I started this interview that he was in that, and I was like, I saw his face on there in the credits, like, oh, Frank Malevy.
yeah, yeah.
The guy
Yeah,
loved to
Greg
laugh.
was in a few of Paul's films also. We were almost like a little company. It was really nice. And I loved Paul and his whole family. His daughter Mimi Leader is a
Mhm.
director also.
Oh, yes, she is. I've seen some of her movies.
Yeah, yeah, that's Paul's daughter. And
Mhm.
Ruben, his son, I think he was a producer, but I don't know if he dropped out. I don't know. I haven't been in touch with him in a long time. But one thing I don't want you to slip up on, if you will, is
Mhm.
my most current film starring role was in Slipaway, which was released in 2017. And I think it won 23 festival awards, which included 6 Best Actress awards for me, and another 21 nominations and another 7. Anyway, but it is a beautiful, tender film about an intergenerational friendship between an older woman and a young man who's troubled, and
Mhm.
she kind of helps straighten him out, rescues him in a way, and he ends up kind of rescuing her in a way. And it all takes place on a boat, most of it, not all of it, on a sailboat called Slipaway, and a very fitting title for the film. So I highly recommend it. It is a beautiful film. The reviews have been great. You can get it on YouTube or Amazon, and it's one word Slipaway, because there's another film called Slipaway, 2 words, and it's
Mhm.
about a lesbian couple. So that is not our film. The film I'm in is one word Slipaway, and I just, if you haven't seen it, Greg, you got to
I
watch.
haven't. And you're the lead.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
oh yeah,
Well, that must have been
yeah.
refreshing, Were you ever nervous playing the lead in a movie, or did it matter?
Oh no, it's no different. I mean, it's wonderful. It's exciting and wonderful. I'm working all the time, which I
Yeah.
love, instead of sitting around waiting to go on. And Jesse Pepe, who played opposite me, we just had great chemistry together. It was so cute because when we auditioned and they would called us back a couple of times, and in the last callback, they had me read with three different very gorgeous young men. And afterwards, they said, Elaine, just give us your honest opinion. Which of these guys do you think would be best in the role? And I said, well, they're all adorable and they're so sweet and good. But the only guy I think who could carry this really, because it's a big part, would be Jesse Pepe. Well, later, when Jesse and I we filmed in San Diego, and Jesse and I decided to go down together. There's no point in driving two cars, and I have a Prius. And he said, "Oh, could I drive your Prius?" I said, "Absolutely, no problem." I never drove again. The whole tech, he always did all the driving. Anyway, when we were driving down there, he said, "Elaine, when I auditioned, they have me reading with three women." And at the end of it, they asked me the same question. And I had the same answer. I don't think the only person, in my opinion, who could carry it off is Elaine Partnow. So we were just meant to play together. We had good on-screen chemistry together, and we have become very good friends. Um, he got married about a year ago, and on he had the wedding on Zoom online, and I got to go to a Zoom wedding.
Oh,
And
that must have been different.
yeah, the first time I met his wife was before the pandemic when they were just dating, and I was like nervous, like you better be the right person for my Jesse, like I feel like he's my grandson or something, I just adore him. He's the best guy, and he's not even acting anymore. He's doing other things with his life, but he's just adorable, and he's wonderful in the film. There's a lot of good actors in the film, and it's a beautiful film. I've watched it many times. I have my stepsister. She says, Elaine, I've watched this film 3 times. I just love this film. It's gotten wonderful, not only response from festivals, but if you go online and you look at the reviews from viewers, just everyday people, consistently good. I don't think I've seen any bad ones.
I would hope not.
Well, sometimes people go, "Oh, this is too boring for me. I like, more offbeat." It's not an offbeat film at all. It's a kind of a traditional story in terms of its structure, you know. Um, but anyway, I recommend it. I'm very proud of it. Very proud
Oh,
of
you
it.
should be. You should
Yeah,
be. Yes, I'll have to check that out.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now,
Remember? Go
yeah.
ahead.
Now, you mentioned earlier Nickelodeon, and
Mm-hmm.
again, another movie that had just a wonderful cast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ryan O'Neal. You had Burt Reynolds, who we lost not too long ago. I've always loved Burt. You had John Ritter in that. I remember when we lost him. Stella Stevens. You had such a tremendous cast of
Yeah,
characters in that
yeah.
movie. Talk about working on Nickelodeon. Of course,
The
that is
only
a.
one, the, the only one I really had interaction with was Burt Reynolds, and I have
Mm-hmm.
to tell you, he was just the sweetest man. He learned all of our names, all the small parts. He knew our names, and he was friendly and very huggable. Just a teddy bear of a guy. And it made me feel so good about him because my only real familiarity with him was that wonderful movie he was in with John Voight, that really tender
Deliverance.
Deliverance. So, I'd never seen him in this light before. And he was just so sweet. And at one point, he's jumping on a wagon, and a bunch of us don't want him to go, and I'm pulling his pants down. That was my big That was my big part in the scene, was pulling the pants off of Burt Reynolds. But that was about it, Other than that, it was just the other small the people with smaller roles that we shared a dressing room and we kind of had fun together and all, Yeah. But
Always love,
I didn't have
yeah.
interaction with the other ones. Yeah.
I always loved Burt Reynolds. Of course, this came out the year before he did Smokey and the Bandit, where he really got in the spotlight, and
Yeah.
got behind the wheel, and he's got behind the wheel many times since.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
That's right.
yep.
That's right. He kind of set him on that comedic path because I think Nickelodeon was probably the first time he'd ever played comedy. He was
Well,
usually playing a kind of tough guy, maybe even a kind of mean guy. And there he was playing comedy and he was good at it.
oh, he was great. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I loved him in Boogie Nights as well, which was not a comedy, but he got an Oscar nomination
Yeah.
out of that. There's some titles here I actually haven't seen, but I do want to ask you about them to whet my appetite here. Um, Cool Breeze.
Oh, that's an oldie but goodie. Let's see. That was Barry Pollock directed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, that's the guy who did It's Not a Date with Eric Roberts just a few
Mm-hmm.
years ago. Same guy. And who is in that now?
Let me
One or
see.
two names in that, weren't there? Or were there not? I think that,
They're names of people I do not recognize,
yeah, well, maybe
but
not
it's
then. Yeah.
but it's one of those black exploitation movies,
Mm.
black exploitation
I have
movies.
my memory, honestly, of working on it is so vague. I only remembered working with Barry. I remembered Barry, and then he stopped doing it, and he stopped directing, and he went on, I think, to become a psychologist, and then just a few years ago decided to start, maybe because his son wanted to be an actor, and started directing films that were starring his son.
Mm-hmm.
And that, because he's done another one since It's Not a Date, he did another one. Now I don't remember. I wasn't in it. I don't remember the name of it, but I know he did another film with his son, who has an unusual first name. Can't think of. Anyway, so I'm sorry that I can't help you there. I just don't have a lot of memories of Cool Breeze.
Oh,
There
I
was
just clicked on it here because it's one of those titles I wasn't familiar with, and I like movies from back in this period because one of the things movies are great at, and unless it's a sci-fi or something, but if it's set in real time, you get to look like when I watch, say, The French Connection, I'm seeing 1970/1971.
mm-hmm.
I'm seeing that. It's not something made up. You're seeing the
Right,
locations and you're
right,
seeing this. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You get a
yeah.
real good feeling of the period. You really do.
And
Greg, I have another appointment before long, so I'm enjoying talking to you, but we're going to have to kind of wrap it up.
okay, okay. Well, I'll let you go here, but um one of the things I want to point out, do you have any charities you want to plug on here that you're passionate about?
Um, Not currently, really. I'm very passionate about some political things, but we don't
Okay.
have to get into politics. Um, I don't. I don't have to have any particular charity that I'm passionate about at this time.
Okay.
Okay.
And of course, you want to plug your website on here so people can find you.
ElainePartnow.com. It's really easy. And my
Hmm.
last name, I have so much fun sometimes on auditions. I want the part now. I got the part now. I mean, it's my name. That was my father's name, and it's my name. So, so yeah, ElainePartnow.com. Go for it.
Well, you know what? I know of a lot of voice actors. It's great work, and a lot of voice actors are getting a lot of good recognition now. And because remember when Snow White came out, nobody knew who the voice actors was, and then say Shrek comes out, and you know all the voice
Right.
actors, so it
Right.
started,
Right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that's great because those characters have to be acted as well, you know?
They do, although I will say that they're using a lot of stars and big names because that brings in the audience. But there's a lot of us who could do the job just as well.
I agree.
You know,
I absolutely
we
agree.
don't have the name value, and that's why a lot of those folks are getting it. But anyway, that's the way it goes. If you go to my website, by the way, I'm also doing photography these days.
Oh,
Very
yes, I saw that.
yeah, and it's very unusual photography because the only things and it's all with my iPhone. I don't use a regular, just everything's with my. Now I used to be my iPhone 5, and now I've got an 11. That's it. I'm not a high tech person, but I photograph creatures and beings that I discover on the trunks and roots of trees.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of wild. That's probably the call saying, Elaine, where are you?
Well, before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Oh, absolutely.
Just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
On Python's Paradise, is that
Yeah.
it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a pleasure, and you are listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
And we are celebrating
We're
the fifth.
celebrating 50 years of What's Up, Doc?
Absolutely. What's up, Doc? Wonderful movie. Thank you so much, Eileen, for being part of this. Elaine, I'm sorry, I screwed that up again. Eileen,
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for allowing me the honor.
It's my pleasure, Greg. Good luck to you, and take care.
Absolutely.
And
God
thanks for
bless.
doing the job you do.
Thank you. Thank you. God
Yeah.
bless.
Okay. Bye bye.